We are going to be making a sushi crunch wrap. This is a pretty large piece of food, but it's exciting. Again, it's very creative. It's a piece of artwork. What we're going to need is 4 large pieces of seaweed. We're going to make a really quick spicy mayo. We're going to fry up some oyster mushrooms. We're going to put some fried sweet potato in there and a couple of different bits and bobs of fruits and veggies. As I always say, if there's something on here you don't like, by all means, switch it up. But if we're ready, let's get going. So 4 sheets of seaweed onto our chopping board. And whilst we've got our seaweed in front of us, what we're going to do is we're just going to partly cook our sweet potato. So on a medium heat, around 150, we're just going to pop that sweet potato in and let that cook. But actually, before we move on to this part, let's get our messy part out the way first. So our breadcrumbs from earlier, bring them back to us, and our batter from earlier. So we're going to take 2 oyster mushrooms. Now, the beautiful thing about these mushrooms, and I say this all the time, we are so lucky with the variety of mushrooms that we can have readily available to us. And sometimes we can be a little bit afraid to experiment with the more exotic types, but always give it a go. If you don't like it, try another way of cooking it. This way, we're adding a level of crunch because this is soft on the inside. So 2-dimensional, and it works really well. But you can pan fry them, you can cook them in other ways. So start experimenting with mushrooms because you'll be surprised with the different textures that you can create. So all we're doing is dipping it into the wet, making sure it's all really nice and coated. If it has folded over, open it up. We want a flat surface into the dry. And again, that sprinkle technique we used earlier, we're using it again. So turn it over and then just pop it onto your tray, ready for when that sweet potato is finished. So we're now completely finished with our messy part. So give your hands a wash, give your board a little bit of a wipe. Let's just check on our sweet potato. So what we're doing right now is we are just slowly cooking the sweet potato. We want it to be nice and soft without burning. So that is why we're cooking this on a very low heat. So whilst that's cooking, we'll go back to our 4 sheets of seaweed. So we're going to lay them 2 and 2, and we're overlapping them. So with our rice nearby, what we're going to do is our rice is going to act as our glue. So we're going to take a little bit of rice and down each side, not the outer edges, the inside edges, we are just going to put small amounts of rice. And this is our glue. This is going to hold our wrap together. Okay? So I come from quite an artistic background. I studied art at school. I did an art foundation degree. And then I went on to studying prosthetic makeup for television and film, which, for those who don't really know what that is all about creating makeup, sculptured makeup for television and film. And for me, my love from food came from that transferring that love for creativity and design into food. So for me, my passion is to really sit with a pen and paper and design dishes that will allow me to be creative with what's readily available to us. Like, look at all of the colours we've got in front of us. It is so exciting. And what I said about mushrooms earlier, these products are so readily available to us that, you know, we can afford to experiment and try loads of different things. And there's so much out there on the internet that can help as well. So don't be afraid. And as I always say, if it goes wrong, try again. But it's so exciting. And the beauty of this dish is we're going to layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And we can just pack in so much flavour. So next, we go back to our rice. We get a small handful worth, pop it into the centre, and you're just going to flatten it down. And you want a nice even circle all at the bottom. And as I mentioned earlier, we're just going to make a really quick spicy mayonnaise. So we've got some mayonnaise in front of us, tiny bit of Korean chili paste, and you're just going to dollop that into the mayonnaise and just give it a real good mix. You can use plain mayo, you can use sriracha mayo. You don't need to use mayo, it's up to you. What we're going to do is we're just going to pop that on the bottom. Pop it on the bottom like that. And whilst that's sitting there, we are just going to turn our attention back to the fryer. So our sweet potatoes should be doing really nicely. We are on around 130. They've been in there for between 3 to 5 minutes. Depending on how thin or thick you've cut them will depend how long it's going to take. So definitely keep an eye on them. But for now, these ones are done. We're going to crank the heat up, pop the basket back in, and we're now frying our mushrooms. So pop that into the fryer, and we're just going to leave them just for a minute. Now, what we're also going to do is in the middle of this, we're going to now layer upon layer of crunch, soft, pickled, smoky. We're really trying to balance the sweetness as well inside there. So first things first is we're just going to wait for our mushroom to cook. So pause there for a minute, stand by your mushroom, and then we'll come back together when your mushroom's cooked. Okay guys, so what we've done so far is we've got 4 sheets of seaweed out. We've got our rice in the centre. We've made a really quick spicy mayonnaise whilst our mushrooms were cooking in the oil, which they are now definitely ready to come out. They've been in for around 3 to 4 minutes. They're really nice and golden crispy. Our temperature was up high because we wanted that crisp as well as the inside of the mushroom to cook because they were raw. And they're perfect. So all we're going to do is pull them out and pop them onto our paper. And now we're finished for the time being with this oil, so just move it to one side. So building the layers of our crunch wrap, how are we going to do it? So first things first, our mushroom. So if they're nice and flat, just flatten them out a little bit more and pop that directly onto the rice. Now, you can choose whatever fruits and veggies you want to put inside of this. So we're going to start with some cucumber, and we want to keep it whole. So what we're going to do is just cut a couple of slices of the cucumber. We want it whole. I know traditionally we would take the seeds out of this, but because of the shape of this sushi roll, we want to keep it whole. So what we're going to do is we're now going to create a flower around the mushroom. Okay. Press it down, and that's our first layer. So we've got 2, 4, 5, 6 pieces of cucumber in there. A little bit of pickled cabbage. This is super easy to do. It's just shredded cabbage with some sushi rice vinegar, sugar, and maple syrup with a little bit of sesame oil. We're just squeezing the liquid out, and we're now popping that on top. So now we're taking our sweet potato and we're just overlapping it over the cabbage. We're now going to go in with some avocado. So just cut it into half. Peel off the skin. And just really nicely thinly slice it. What we're going to do with that is we're going to fan it and then pop that onto the top. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop in the second piece of mushroom, lay that onto the top, and that is, it is a stack. It is an absolute stack. So how do we get this closed? So we're just going to add a little bit more rice onto the top. So all you need to do is use your hands and make a little pancake of rice. That's just going to help this hold together really nicely. So we're just adding a little lid of rice onto the top, packing it down. Now, how do we do it? We take one corner and we fold it all the way over the top. We take this hand and we just press it down close to the center and we fold again. Remember, we want this really nice and tight. So again, we put another hand down. We're wrapping a parcel that, let's think of this as a little Christmas present. We're wrapping, or if you remember past the parcel, this is a little bit like that. So we're just folding those edges in again. Now, once we're at this point and we've got just a little bit left, all we're going to do is take a tiny bit of rice, pop it into the center, fold this over all the way, really, really nice and tight. Again, if you need a little bit more rice, just to secure it down, pop the rice on. And what we're left with is a really beautiful parcel. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use our technique that we learned earlier of breadcrumbing and frying. We're just going to move our rice to one side. We don't need it anymore. So to help us in this, what we need to do is we need some corn flour, our tempura batter, and our panko mix. So we're just going to dust our seaweed in some corn flour. Now, I know that this is not your everyday, and it is a real treat, but sometimes it's really nice to give yourself that treat, to have something a little bit exciting, something out of the ordinary, something you wouldn't normally eat every single day. And that's what makes it, food so exciting. It doesn't need to be something we're eating every day, but it can be exciting. So we're just going to really dunk this into the wet, get our hands involved. And from here, we go into our dry. Straight in. Now, the technique we're using right now, this is called katsu. And this can be applied to a multitude of different things. If you've got some spare rice, some vegan chicken, so even the mushrooms we used earlier, this can be served as a standalone dish. You don't need to, use this technique to make sushi. You can use this technique and apply it to a lot of other different foods. So all we've done is we've coated it in the breadcrumb and we're now going to transfer it to the hot oil. So just get your hands involved, make sure it's all packed down and pop it into the oil. Now, it is a bit of a monster, so we're going to have to fry the bottom and then fry the top. So right now we're on the highest heat because we want it really nice and golden brown. It's going to sit in there for around 2 to 3 minutes on one side and 2 to 3 minutes on the other. So whilst that's in the oil, let's recalibrate, let's tidy up a little bit, and then we can get to the plating. So as I said, this is a bit of a monster, so we're cooking it in 2 parts. Right now it's been in for around 3 to 4 minutes. It's ready to be turned over, so get some tongs so you're not going to burn yourself. Give it a good turn around, and this will take less time to cook, around another 2 minutes, maybe less, so keep an eye on it. And then once that's cooked, what we're going to do is we're going to pull it out of the oil, we're going to pop it onto our kitchen paper, onto our chopping board, and then we're ready for the big reveal. Okay, so it's ready. Let's take it out, take our tongs. Whoa, see, it's a monster. So it's pretty heavy. I would say that probably weighs about a kilo and a half maybe. It's pretty heavy. Drain off the oil. We're going to move it and transfer it onto some kitchen paper for now. We are completely finished with our hot oil, so let's turn that off. Keep it over there. Let's get our dish that you're going to put it into. And if this is too hot for you to handle, guys, please pause the screen, let it cool down completely. But if we're ready, let's remove it from the paper. Take a serrated knife because we've got quite a crunch to go through here. So serrated is going to use the friction that we need to get through this. So let's go all the way down the center. Remember, we packed a lot in there. So, and the idea is, look, this is so crispy. So the outside is perfect. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. We've got the inside of our wrap. So if you remember, we layered this with mushroom, cucumber, pickled cabbage, sweet potato, and we topped it with another mushroom.